Boozed contains adult themes and language. Listener beware. Hello and welcome to Boozed, where we get supernatural and shit-faced. I'm your host, Camille, and I am here with my co-host.
This is Sydney.
And thank you for joining us once again, dear listener. Before we get started, I would like to remind you all that we now have a website. Have you been to our website, Sydney?
I haven't been to it yet, but I'm aware that we have one.
How dare you?
I know. But I'm in the
How dare
process
you?
of ordering my brown liquor lady mug, which everyone else should order, because we also have
Yes,
merch.
we do. So here's the thing. I made updates to our website today.
Mm.
So when you finally go to our website, it will be different from the original. So check out boostpod.com for our updated website. I'm still making some tweaks to it, but I would love for you all to see it.
To be fair,
Right.
the only website that I go to ever now is like Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube.
Well, we're also now on Pinterest. Good for you to mention that. So if you are someone who still uses Pinterest, I don't know.
Everyone still uses Pinterest.
Do they?
That's just how we come up with our Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners. That's how you get
I
inspired.
I was like really into Pinterest like the first year or 3 that it came out. I haven't used it since then until someone was like, "Oh no, you should really market the podcast on Pinterest. You get a lot of like listeners that way." So now we're on Pinterest at Boozed Podcast. So you can do like pinterest.com/booze podcast or search us. We
Nice.
are now on Pinterest.
We should
So give
make
us a
some
follow.
I mean it's a little moot now, but like we should have made some spooky sugar cookies.
I am listen, the content on Pinterest is a bit sparse presently. I will work on it. So just follow for now and bear with me. I am trying to learn how to use Pinterest for a podcast, which seems completely foreign to me. Personally, when I was using Pinterest, the two so I'll be very, very honest. I am super into bridal. I love all things bridal. I have always loved all things bridal. I don't know what it is. I get super excited when someone tells me they're planning a wedding because I'm like, "Ooh, what kind of cake? Is it gonna be a bear cake? Is it gonna be tiered? Are you doing cupcakes? Are you doing individual slices? What's your dress? Is it A-line? Is it princess? Is it ball gown?" I get super into bridal. So on my personal Pinterest, I had this huge bridal board that I would constantly like edit and update and add pins to. It's been some years since I've done that, probably for my betterment and my mental health. But anyway, I have not used Pinterest seriously in probably a good 3 years. So this is all new. So bear with us as we add content for the podcast to Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
But we are there now. In case you would like, if you also have a Pinterest, please give us a follow. Again, it's Boozed Podcast. Our website is Boozed Pod. There are still some tweaks that need to be made, but I did make some website updates. And as Sydney mentioned, you can go to our website to find some lovely, the link to our merch store. I'll tell you that. boostpod.bigcartel.com for all your holiday shopping needs. Because guess what? We are in the holiday season.
We are in the holiday season.
I know I asked you last time. I don't know if this made it into the episode, but are you any closer to doing your holiday shopping?
I have bought a few gifts now. Since you last asked, I have gotten one of your gifts. I've also gotten
Ooh.
my dad. My dad's birthday is coming up, so I got him a birthday gift, but I haven't gotten his Christmas gift.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm trying to stop buying myself $6 things on Amazon and
It's
start
so hard. It's
focusing
so
on other
hard.
people, as
Right,
that's what
right,
this
right, right.
season's about. But
Mhm.
I've done
Sure
a
it is.
little bit. I've done a
You
little
know what?
bit.
Everyone loves a gift card. Get a Visa gift card for everyone, $20,
You
you're
know, the
done.
thing about it is people this is, I the older generation will tell you gift cards are impersonal, shouldn't give people gift cards, get them something from the heart. But I'm
Mm,
like, but then they can get what their heart wants.
this is true. Listen, my grandma will complain every year for the last, like, 5 years. My grandma's almost 90. She's 89, and for the last 3 years at least, she has told me, "Well, so and so got me such and such. I really wish they woulda just given me cash." So guess what I do? I send that woman $25 in cash for the last few years, and she has no complaints. When you're 90, you already have everything, everything. There's what she wants is to be able to pay some of her medical bills. That's what she wants. So
That's
just
true.
send anyone over the age of 70 cash, hard cash. They will love you. A gift card to their favorite grocery store. Just don't bother with the shawls or the blankets or the pajamas. If they ask you for something specific, maybe. Like she did ask for pajamas one year and I sent those to her. But other than that, I send her about 25 bucks in cash and
That's
I've
really
not had a
cute.
complaint.
It's like they start out sending you 25 bucks every month for your birthday, and then you just do it back. I really like that. It's very poetic.
My grandmother hasn't sent me something to my for my birthday in, like, 10 years, so
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
continue. It's early
No,
on.
no, no. It's done. She does give me money sometimes every time I'm home, so that makes up for it, but other than that, she's given me more than enough money, honestly, but yeah, now I just give her cash and we call it even. There's no side comments about, "Oh, another piece of jewelry? Mm." Like, yeah, there's none of that when it comes to me. I'm like, "Here's $25, have fun."
Solid,
Easy.
solid.
Yeah. So, well, if you do have any other holiday shopping to do, you can go to boostpod.bigcartel.com. We have our brown liquor lady mugs, which seem to be very popular with the men's so far.
Anybody can be a brown liquor lady.
Anyone, truly. And we also have boozed logo t-shirts, a booze logo mug. There is also a tote bag. So if you need something to tote your, I don't know, your ghost supplies, your murder kit. I'm not endorsing doing murder, but if you need something to carry all your supplies in, it's a big bag. It's very nicely made. That's all I'm going to say.
Helpful.
Moving on. Sydney,
Oh no.
what are you drinking tonight?
Well, we finally arrived.
Uh-oh.
I want to start by saying,
Mm-mm. No qualifiers. What are you drinking? Stop it.
why will you let me tell my story?
I just feel like you're gonna make me out to be the enemy here, and I don't
No,
like
no. I was only going to start by saying that I'm not drinking rosé tonight.
it. Mhm.
As I told you guys last time, I bought my new smaller glasses because I had broken all the other ones. And I've already
Yes.
broken one of the new smaller glasses. So now I have
Oh,
3
goodness.
left.
Oh,
So
God.
we'll see how long that lasts.
I
Um
I just don't understand. What are you doing to your wine
I think
glasses?
I just like I said, I'll bump into a table, smash. I'll sit it down on the corner. I didn't get the whole desk, it falls over. Crap. Um Last time all I did was sit it down and then the stem broke.
Maybe I feel like maybe this is a problem with your depth perception. Do you need glasses?
It's been discussed. I'm still not open to it.
Okay, well, I think maybe you need to just get some glasses so your depth perception can kind of even out.
I mean,
and we can stop breaking wine glasses. Or, as I said, just buy some stemless ones. I think that's the goal.
both of those options I'm not completely okay with, but
Okay,
I hear
okay.
what you're saying.
Mhm, mhm.
To answer your original question, I'm because I'm always, I tend to bully Camille into drinking tequila and doing jumping jacks until she gets
Mm.
uh properly
Ill,
drunk.
ill,
Properly drunk.
vomity.
She didn't vomit because I asked the next morning and she said she didn't.
I
But
was real close.
so tonight I thought I would, have some solidarity and get some Cuervo myself. I've already taken. Here she comes with the air horns. I've already taken 2 shots.
And we're gonna take a third.
We're gonna take a
What?
third shot because
Shot, 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 shot,
I
shot,
guess
shot,
this is
shot, shot,
payback
shot,
that
shot,
I
shot.
brought on myself.
Everybody. Yes, it is.
You're aging yourself singing
It's
that
so
song.
it's fine. Listen, I've told everyone my age to the detriment of my acting career. I've told everyone my age on this podcast.
Okay, I've got my salt.
You are so fancy with it.
I can't just drink it. If you just drink it,
I did.
everything
I
is on
did.
fire. That's a rookie mistake. Everything's on fire if you just drink tequila straight.
I just feel like that means you're weak.
And it might be true. I don't have a problem admitting that.
Mm, mm. I was listening to a podcast today where they were talking about continue taking your shot. I'm just gonna talk over the process while
Oh,
we do this here.
okay, okay.
I was listening to there's the salt. Mhm. Shot down the hatch. Lime. Oh, lovely. Good job. Good job, friend. Yes.
Whew.
No regrets. No regrets.
What are you drinking, Camille?
I decided I almost finished. I meant to finish, but I didn't quite do it. My pie hole pecan
Oh,
pie whiskey.
you got that again.
I had a little bit I had, actually more than a little bit of that left, and so I took a couple of glasses of that, and then I also had a Jack and Coke as well left over from those cans that I bought a while back,
That
so
pie
I
hole
had
is really good.
it is so good, and it smells so delicious, and since I didn't get to have my pecan pie for Thanksgiving this year from my grandma, I feel like this was, like, a decent substitute.
Mm.
So, yeah, I had the pie hole pecan pie whiskey and some Jack and Coke, and, I think yeah, I've had a good amount of whiskey this evening.
She's drinking it straight. I need the lime and the salt. I can't.
Well, I mean, we can call it straight-ish, like, I didn't drink the Jack and Coke is clearly a
Well, you had a
mix.
Jack and
The
Coke, but
the
I mean,
the pie hole
yeah, it's like
is
a
a
dessert.
flavored
It's like a
yeah,
dessert.
it's flavored whiskey, so it's a little less than straight, but I did drink it without a mixer, so
Hmm.
I was gonna do the margarita mix, but I decided to save it.
No.
I'm gonna wait till the next one probably to do the margarita mix. We'll wait another week or 2 before I venture back into tequila land.
Tequila Land is it's
Horrible.
so much fun. I'm having a great time right now.
Well, since you're having a great time, let's get started with
Let's
this week's episode.
So you're going to be telling our story today. What are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, I thought that since this is like the last episode I'm gonna record from the state of Texas officially.
Oh. You don't have to make me sad.
I'm sorry. This time, okay, well, by the time this releases, so right now it's December 4th. This will release next Thursday, which is what, December 10th?
Yeah.
This time next week, I will be in Jackson, Mississippi at a hotel this time next week. And then, Friday next week, I will be making my final leg of my trip to Atlanta. So, since this is my last official recording as a resident of the state of Texas, I decided let's do some Texas ghost stories.
Oh, snap. The Yeehaw agenda is here.
Yes, the Yeehaw Howdy agenda. That's what we're doing today. That's what we're going to call this Yeehaw Howdy agenda. Unlike the gay and queer agenda that you've heard so much about, this one has far more guns. Um, so I decided that it might be nice to do some Texas related urban legends and ghost stories. And also, I have some hometown, a couple of hometown. And when I say hometown, I mean San Antonio. That's where I'm originally from.
Hmm.
I have spent honestly, I've spent like half of my life in San Antonio, half of my life in Dallas Fort Worth. And so I've spent almost exactly 15 years of in each place. Well, 18 years in San Antonio, technically. And then up till now, since I'm 30, blah, 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 in Dallas Fort Worth. So yeah, I thought we'd do some Texas haunts, and I have a couple of like San Antonio stories and from other places. So yeah, that's what we're doing tonight.
That sounds great.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
All right. Well, we will get into it. We are going to start with my hometown, San Antonio, Texas. Shout out 210, say town,
They have
Alamo
HEBs.
City, HEB.
I
Dear God,
still haven't been inside an HEB ever.
listen, if you don't know what an HEB store is, please go to San Antonio or South Texas and find out. It is, if nothing else, for the in-house tortillas. The HEB tortillas alone are worth the trip. I have lived in Dallas Fort Worth for about 15 years now, a little more, and I still miss HEB every day. It is the greatest grocery store in the country. You cannot convince me otherwise. But anyway, yeah, Saytown, Alamo City, San Antonio. We are going to start with the urban legend of the haunted ghost tracks. Have you ever heard of the haunted ghost tracks in San Antonio?
I have not.
Well, if you have lived in San Antonio for like more than, let's say, 2 years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, the railroad crossing at 2902 Shane Road doesn't look like much, but like I said, the people of San Antonio know all too well its dark past. It all started on a normal day, sometime in the late 1930s. A school bus full of students was making its way down the road when it stalled on the train tracks. As the driver struggled to get the bus moving again, they did not notice the train that was barreling down the tracks. Thus, 20 to 30 students on board the bus lost their lives that day. Devastated by the events, the city decided to name the streets in the surrounding neighborhood after those children who had lost their lives. And now, ever since that fateful day, people have reported a strange occurrence at the tracks. Some people have reported that their vehicle mysteriously stalled the moment they tried to cross the tracks. And as they struggled to restart the engine, their car would slowly drift forward, moving them just to safety beyond the rails and out of the way of any train that may come through. Now, after many years of similar reports, the train tracks at Shane Road have become a very popular destination. If you were to visit today, you would typically find more than a few brave motorists looking to test their luck at the tracks to see if the stories are true. So, how do you test this theory, right?
Hmm.
What you do is you pull up to the tracks, and before crossing over, you get out your car and you sprinkle some talcum or baby powder along the sides and along the trunk of your car. When you return to your car, put it in neutral. Then, as you sit in the potential path of an oncoming train, your car will roll over the tracks to safety. Once in the clear, you can get out of your car, and when you inspect the powdered parts, no doubt you will notice some small handprints where there were none before.
So just so I got this correctly, your car's not on the tracks. It's like a little before it gets on the tracks.
It's a little, I've heard it both ways. So, growing up in San Antonio, this is one of the legends, the folklore that you hear all the time,
Did this actually
especially
happen, this incident?
especially around Halloween. Yes and no.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Right now, if you were going up to tracks, you can park about maybe 10 feet from the tracks,
Mhm.
put your car in neutral, put the powder on your car, and your car will move
Is your
over.
car moving because it's in neutral and it still moves?
Well, if you put your car in neutral, it's not necessarily going to move it on its own. It's just in neutral.
Is there an incline or is it pretty flat?
There is an incline.
Hmm.
There is an incline. Now, so you put your car in neutral. So you can park really close to the tracks. Most people, I think, start a little away from the tracks, and their car, you can see their car in some videos I saw on YouTube. You can, unfortunately, I actually never went. I heard about this all my life growing up in San Antonio, and I never had the guts to
I was
go.
gonna
Never
ask
had.
if you tried this as a San
No,
Antonian.
honestly, me and my friends, that was one of the things we never did, oddly enough. And at Halloween, the line on that road is like hundreds of cars. Like, this is the big thing to do at Halloween. You can find people there almost any day of the week giving it a try, but at Halloween, of course, it's definitely like super popular to go down to the tracks and have the ghost children push your car over the tracks and see their little handprints along your
So
car's trunk.
I'm gonna assume this train track is no longer running.
I honestly don't know. I didn't look at that. I think it might still be running.
Because I'm surprised that the city would allow them to do this.
Well, what the city does in the video that I watched today before reporting, before creating my notes, um, the city will send a police patrol out there, especially on Halloween, just to control traffic. So the city is fully aware that this happens.
They're into it.
They're into it. They send out police just to make sure nothing crazy happens. There have been people who have purposely parked their cars on the tracks and have had a train hit them, unfortunately. Yeah, it's bizarre. It's really bizarre. I know most people are probably thinking, well, most train tracks have railroad crossings, right?
Mhm.
That is not true. Where I worked until May of this year, there was a railroad that went right by the building. 0 railroad
None
crossings.
of the ding 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 ding
None
ding
of
ding
the
ding.
no,
Okay.
nope, not a single one. And for the longest time, I worked there for like 4 years. I thought the railroad tracks were out of service until I started seeing sometimes there would be a rail car parked on the tracks. And then one day I went to work and one of the trains had derailed by our office, meaning that a train was actively moving across the tracks and there was no railway crossing. So it's not true that all railroad crossings have tracks or the cross barriers, the guards, the
Mhm.
warnings, whatever you want to call them.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
as far as I
especially
can
when
tell,
they're that old.
yeah, yeah. And these are old tracks. Now, to your question, this is a San Antonio urban legend. However, there is no history of a bus crash.
So it's not in like the archives of like something
It is
that you know how in
no
what's that movie Now and Then where they go to the library and they start looking up like all the stuff.
looking through microfiche. Yeah,
Yes.
there is. no story. And now, as long as I've grown up, it was the San Antonio Express News. I don't know if there was an older version of that at some point, but there is no history of a story of a train crash, including a bus full of children in San Antonio during this time. However, there is a story about a bus crash in 1938 in which a bus full of students was hit by an oncoming train. However, it happened in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay.
And this crash is what led to the law that buses have to stop at a railroad. So in 1938, to be exact, there was a railroad crossing accident in Salt Lake City that did kill 23 students on a bus.
Hmm.
From what I was able to research, this story was reported in the San Antonio newspaper, as it was pretty much national news. This was like the largest tragic bus crash,
Yeah.
in the nation at this time. It's 1938.
Right.
And so this story was reported probably nationwide, at least in all the major cities. And so this story did run in the San Antonio Express News, which leads some folklorists and historians to believe this is where the birth of the urban legend from San Antonio came about. And all of the names of the streets are the names of children, allegedly children, but it's said that they're actually the names of the children from the developer of the neighborhood,
As they
and
usually are.
and not the victims of a bus crash. Yeah. So, but I mean, and you did mention an incline. So the thing about this railroad crossing is that there is an uphill incline. When you look at the railroad crossing, it looks like you are going uphill. When you do like actual measurements, it's an optical illusion because you're actually going downhill.
So that's why your car would keep moving when it's in
That's
neutral.
why your car would keep moving. Yeah.
And you've
So
never been to this.
I've never been. I've wanted to go. I keep thinking about going, but then it just like comes and goes. And again, I've been living in Dallas Fort Worth for like 15 years now. So, I mean, I've just never thought to really go back and go to do just this thing. But I mean, this is really a story you hear about from early childhood onto adulthood. I mean, there are plenty of people. If you ask most, especially San Antonio natives, if you ask them about the haunted ghost tracks, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And they can tell you, and they'll tell you the story about this bus full of school children that got hit, and you put powder on your car and you'll see handprints.
Has anyone ventured to do anything like for Halloween at the track, since the city and the cops are all like okay with it, like in terms of making it an actual official attraction?
No, it's not an official attraction because this is literally a street in a neighborhood.
Hmm.
And so, honestly, Halloween is a big pain in the ass for them
Oh, I'm sure.
because you will have hundreds of cars
That's
lined up down the
why
road.
I figured someone, I mean, capitalism, someone would
Yeah.
try to like.
No, I mean, there's no ticket, there's no admission fee, there's nothing. It's a public street.
So, like, what can you do? You get your car there, you get out, you put the powder around it, you put it in
Mhm.
neutral, and wait for it to slide
Yeah,
down.
yeah, that's exactly what you do.
How 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 far is this from where you live
Oh, I didn't look that up.
or
I
lived?
think it was I think it was always on the west side, so let's see, I'm gonna Google it real quick. 290 Shane Road, San Antonio. Oh, look, it pops right up in Google. That's exactly how known this crossroads is. So from my mom's house, which I will not say the address of out loud
Don't do that.
over the internet, it's only like 13 miles from where my mom lives.
Not too far.
It's not too far.
Yeah.
It is not too far at all. It's like on San Antonio's south side,
Hmm.
past Loop 410. If you're from San Antonio, it's just past Loop 410. Um, so, but again, most people in San Antonio, if they don't know where the track, if they don't know about this story, they've been,
Hmm.
or vice versa, or like, I feel like I'm the only person in San Antonio who hasn't been to see these tracks. I wish I would have gone.
You can
I should
still
have
go.
gone.
Seems
I
like
can still go. Is
we should
yeah.
go. We'll take a booze road trip and we'll like record it
Yes,
for you guys.
absolutely. We'll have to do it. Absolutely. I'm down. I'm so down. But that is the tale of the haunted tracks in San Antonio,
I mean,
Texas.
I don't know if I should wait to the end to debunk this or I should debunk this right now.
I kind of debunked it already, didn't I? Like,
I
there's
mean,
a little incline to the
there's
road,
an
like, your
incline.
car is going to move.
Also, I wonder just from the nature of the where the story originally seemed to happen, I wonder if there's a story like this in a lot of little towns and states.
Mm,
And maybe
I'm
this
not
was
sure.
this was sort of they tell stuff like this to keep you from like putting your car on a train track and getting hit by a train. These are more
Right.
these stories are more for warning you, like,
Absolutely,
and especially
absolutely. Well,
something as scary as that. It would be like,
yeah, well, I mean, certainly in Salt Lake City, this is a thing that actually happened,
yeah,
and it's, 25 people died, and it was probably national news.
but that's
Clearly it was national news because it did show up in the San Antonio
and that's what I
newspaper.
mean. It's funny how they then attributed it to like, oh no, this happened here.
Yeah, well, if you think about, like, you're reading a newspaper, you read a story,
Hmm.
and suddenly you remember this story about a train crash, but maybe you
Yeah,
don't
and
remember
I
what
doubt
city,
in the
but it was in my
headline.
newspaper.
Yeah, so in the headline, I doubt they put like Salt Lake City. No, it was just like
Right,
bus crash kills
right,
on
right,
city train track, and that's all you remember. So it could have happened.
exactly,
Of course, it happened here. Yeah.
and it becomes, the city's urban legend.
Wow.
Absolutely, and I mean, you're living in a city. San Antonio is so rich in culture already, and you have the Alamo, which also has its own ghost stories. You have the Manger Hotel, which
Yeah.
is right next to the Alamo, which also has its own ghost stories.
Is the
It's
Alamo? I don't know if you even looked this up. Is the Alamo supposedly haunted? Haunted?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Really?
yeah. Mhm. I
Hmm.
didn't do it for this week. I didn't do it in this because I feel like it's really famous. I tried
Yeah.
to do things that might not have been so known. The Alamo does have at least 1 ghost that I saw pop up a few times, if not more.
Gotcha.
I will tell you,
Davy
something
Crockett.
that usually Davy Crockett, yeah. David Crockett's ghost haunts the Alamo.
Sam Houston.
I will tell you, a lot of people don't know this, but the location of the Alamo is not its original location.
What?
It is not. It was moved to that location.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Where's that in the Texas history books?
So if you go to San Antonio, the Alamo is like right downtown. It is like the center of downtown. It is next to the Manger Hotel. It is next to the River Center Mall. I have walked by the Alamo 100 times,
Oh my
right?
god.
That is not the original spot
And
of the
that makes so much sense because I always thought, damn, the Alamo is really like conveniently located. Like
Alamo. It's right across from
it's right
Madame
there by the
Tussauds.
mall. I can go from the Alamo to the mall.
It's right by the
But I guess
Wax
I
Museum.
just figured they, of course, like people are going to come visit this like historical site. They'll just
Yeah, yeah.
build out the entertainment around it. But it was moved.
It was moved. Like, there are some original parts that were moved. Now, okay, let me say this. This is my knowledge. I might be wrong, but I'm
Ah,
pretty sure I'm right. Let me hold on. Let me Google this real quick before I
Google
say
that.
anything. Let me
And,
see if I
and while you're Googling it, the last question I have about this original story that you told about the bus
Yes.
crash. Do people have actual reports of seeing the handprints on their cars?
So, people do report seeing handprints on their cars.
Hmm.
Now, the debunkable part of this is that if you put a bunch of baby powder on your car, baby powder is going to attract the oil that it naturally resides in your skin.
Mhm.
So what you're probably seeing is a previous time when someone touched your car or trunk.
Oh, like it's outlining a previous fingerprint.
Right. Right.
Huh.
Well, and I mean, there's different videos that I saw where people are like, "Well, that I know I touched the car here. I've never touched the car here, and there's a handprint there." So, it's kind of one of those things where, like, it's your own memory
Yeah,
versus
because that was the only thing where I was like, well, if people are actually like, once, okay, there's a hill, so it goes down, that makes sense. But if people are actually seeing like handprints in the powder, I can't explain that.
you will see handprints. It is debatable whether they are your own handprints.
But what if no one's
The
touched your
handprints of some.
car? Like, where exactly are you
Right.
supposed to put the powder?
Mainly on your trunk, on the back of your car.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
can
got
you can do
handprints all over it.
you can do the sides if you want, but mostly you do it along the trunk of your car.
That's
Okay, yeah. No, the Alamo, where it is now, is definitely not the original location of the Alamo. So,
they don't tell anybody that.
no, they do not. They might once you pay for the tour, but initially they do not.
So did Ozzy Osbourne actually pee on the side of it?
He did pee on the actual he peed where the building is now, and the building has been there for a while. So he
Yeah.
did pee on the Alamo,
Okay.
but it was the Alamo at the site where it is now, not the site where it was
Right.
at the Battle of the
He
Alamo.
peed by the mall.
Right, he peed by them all. So, yeah, I mean, they've brought over original pieces of the Alamo, but it's not where it was actually located. So, little fun fact if you ever visit San Antonio. Again, they might tell you that in the tour. I think I went on the tour when I was, like,
Man,
in 6th grade
I
the
feel
last
so
time I
lied
went.
to. I've seen the Alamo so many times. Like, this is where it happened.
This is it. History. No, everything's a lie. The cake is a lie.
Everything is a lie.
If we've learned nothing else from 2020, everything is a lie.
We have learned that. Well,
Alright.
that was an interesting hometown story. I don't even know if there are any, like, unless like it's the ghost of when the Cowboys used to win. Of Irving. I don't know that there's any other story.
The legend of Cowboys actually winning.
Yeah.
When the Cowboys were actually America's team.
When
Yeah,
that was true.
when that was true 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get all the Cowboys fans in our mentions,
Don't add us.
um, don't at me. I do not like the Cowboys
I
enough to care.
do. I'm with you.
You do.
How about
I
them?
I actively make fun of Cowboys fans, so bring it if you want to. I'm gonna laugh at you.
How about them?
The worst. That's how about them. They are the worst. And Jerry Jones is the worst for reasons we cannot discuss on this podcast.
Oh, Jerry.
Moving on. Moving on. So, I decided to go with a couple of stories that are local to the next place I lived in Texas, because this is all about me, clearly. Um, the Arlington Screaming Bridge.
Screaming Bridge.
Screaming Bridge. Are you, so I know you've mentioned Louisiana. Are you from Texas or are you from Louisiana?
I was born in Bastrop, Louisiana, but
Okay,
I've lived here since '99, so this is home.
gotcha. Makes sense. So, do you know about Arlington's haunted history at all?
And no, none.
Well, in February of 1961, a car full of teenage girls leaving a movie plunged off a burned out bridge in Arlington.
A burned out bridge?
Yes. Now, there's a couple of stories behind this, so I'll try to get to both of them. The first story I have is that this real life tragedy, this actually happened,
Mm.
but it created an urban legend involving a fiery crash between two cars. And it is said that if you stand on the bridge at night, you'll hear the tormented screams of the teenagers as they died. So are you familiar with River Legacy Park? Is it
I
River Legacy or Trinity?
Trinity sounds more familiar to me.
Um, I'm
But
sorry,
you're
I know.
talking about Arlington, and I don't
I'm
actually know
talking
a
about
lot about
Arlington.
Arlington.
So I went to school in Arlington for college,
Do you go to you
and
you you?
TA?
I was trying to remember the middle letter. I remembered that it ended with an A.
Wait. What else would the middle of the letter have been?
I didn't know.
University blank Arlington. What is in that blank?
My mind was trying to take me to G,
Oh,
and I don't know why.
University something with a G, Arlington.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
but it's
I mean,
UTA. You went to
it is
UTA.
University of North Texas at Arlington.
Okay.
Go Mavericks, I guess. I don't
Are
know.
y'all not the Eagles too?
Who are the
The
Eagles?
University of North Texas and Denton.
Those are two completely different school
Well, why are
systems.
they still called the? Why are they the same thing in different cities?
No, they're not the same thing.
You just said the University of North Texas.
No, I didn't. University of
You
Texas
said
at
North. It's the University of. You said
I
North.
did not say
Yes, you
North.
did. We'll run the
Oh,
tape back.
yeah, run that tape back.
Sydney, remember to find that.
University of North Texas at Arlington. University of North Texas at Arlington.
University of North Texas at Arlington.
University of Texas at Arlington is a different school system than UNT.
Oh, I know that now because you dropped the North.
And I only
That
know
made
that
sense because I was like, I thought it was UT Arlington.
it is UT Arlington.
Yeah, you said University of North Texas at Arlington.
Okay. Well, no, it's the University of Texas at Arlington,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, is what I said. So this accident, it took place at River Legacy Park, which is in Arlington, actually like a block from where I lived in Arlington for most of the time I lived in Arlington. River Legacy Park, it's actually a really nice park. I used to go there a lot.
Is the bridge high? Have you seen the bridge?
I don't, so I didn't know while being there that this was a thing that happened. I do know that there were a few, not gravestones, but memorial markers throughout the park. Thinking back, I don't know if these were the same people who died in the crash. Like, I can't remember the names and dates of who these.
Probably not, because you said this was 1961, right?
This was 1961, right? I mean, I don't know. So I don't think I've ever seen the actual bridge because it says that to get to the bridge, it's closed off kind of, so you can only walk to it. And part of the story of about it being a burnt out bridge is that before at some point before the crash in 61, a few students were caught or accused of having set the bridge on fire. So there were some Arlington High School boys, I think it said, that were accused of setting fire to the bridge. And that's why the bridge was burnt out, as I said, as the girls crossed it. The girls, however, didn't know.
They
Wow.
were. It was being burned. It was already burned, and
It
they
was already
crossed
burnt,
it. Oh, okay.
and they crossed it. Yeah.
No road
And
signs.
there was no road signs. I allegedly, I don't know. This could have been, I hate to stereotype, but when you're in a car full of girls, they're talking to each other, they're looking over their shoulders, they might be distracted, even boys. I'll say for both genders. When you're a teenage, let me start over.
I mean, look, boys set bridges on fire. So who's really
Boys
the
set bridges
problem?
on fire. So, I mean, let's think. You're a teenager
Yes.
coming back from the movie with your friends.
Not paying attention to the road.
Not paying attention to the road. I mean, we see it every day now with teenagers on their phones. They're not even teenagers, people in general. You're on your
Everyone.
phone, you're texting, everyone. You're not paying attention fully. So, I didn't look enough into it to see if there were road signs. Now, what the story I saw did say was that one of the witnesses to the crash, who actually reported the crash, was on the other side of the bridge, and he noticed that it was burnt out.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's because there was a sign there or if he just could see better that the bridge was damaged. And allegedly, he tried to honk to alert the car coming in the opposite direction that the bridge was out. The girls in the other car either thinking like this was some creepy person trying to get them to stop their car, may or may not have sped up, may or may not have, well, they clearly didn't stop, but there's a theory that they may have increased speed to kind of blow by this random car honking at them, to avoid this creepy person. Anyway, in either case,
So it
they
wasn't.
were,
I mean, if it's something like that, then it wasn't so much the bridge, but more like they like skirt off the road trying to get away from someone.
well, no, so it's the opposite side. So it's the other side of the road,
Oh,
on opposite
a
traffic,
car was coming
I guess.
towards them.
Yeah, a car was coming from the opposite side, but he noticed that the bridge was out. The girls
Oh,
didn't.
okay. Ah, oh
So from
boy.
the opposite side of the bridge, he was honking because
Hmm.
I guess he could see their headlights,
Well, they couldn't tell.
and they didn't know why this person was honking at them. This was one article I saw, but the
Yikes.
article said that this was a witness to the crime or the witness to the accident. So, but anyway, the girls in the car, they continued over the bridge that was damaged from this earlier fire,
Hmm.
and they plunged to their deaths. And it was 6 girls, and allegedly you can hear screams if you go out to the bridge, which is only, like I said, accessible if you walk through the park. I have been in that park many times. Had I known this was a thing I could go look at, I would have done it. Um, yeah, it's it's kinda creepy. So,
That is creepy. Wow.
another Arlington tale is that of the University of Texas at Arlington's campus, actually,
Oh boy.
which is my alma mater. As I said, go Mavericks. I have no school spirit, so
They're
anyway.
not the Eagles.
They don't even have a football team, so. But apparently their basketball team is top notch, and their wheelchair basketball team, I think, is, like, the best in the country, at least when I was there.
Awesome.
So UTA's campus, and if you have listened to the Yes and Ghost episode with Anthony, you have heard a little bit of this story already.
Hmm.
But UTA's campus has a history of ghostly sightings that all seem to stem from a time before the university even existed. In the early to mid 1900s, the area of UTA's campus that sits near Davis Hall was once the Baraha. I don't know how to pronounce this word.
Spell
It
it.
is BERACHAH. You've gotten out a piece of paper.
BERA.
CHAH.
Whoa.
Baraka? Baraka?
That sounded right. What you just before that. Baraka.
Baraka?
Yeah.
I didn't look up a pronunciation guide, my bad. But anyway, this industrial home for the redemption of erring girls. Erring girls.
What does that mean?
So, so here's what it means. So the home was founded by nailed it, Reverend J.T. Upchurch and his wife, opened in 1903 to help homeless women and unwed mothers. So it was erring girls means women who were either homeless or unwed mothers,
Okay.
which in the early 1900s was like a big deal
Right.
to be an unwed mother, you know. But by 19, and I want to just say the name of his wife because I feel like she deserves recognition. Maggie May. Maggie May Upchurch. Anyway, moving on. By 1928, the home occupied more than 60 acres of the land around it, and it featured its own hospital clinic, nursery, a handkerchief factory, because those were the thing back then, and a cemetery. Now, the home closed in 1935, but was reopened later as an orphanage. However, the orphanage would shut down less than 10 years later, some say due to a fire that killed many of the young inhabitants. Now, I have mentioned before in the previous episode that I mentioned Yes and Ghost, I think is the name of the episode with Anthony. There was a ghost in the theater department called Adelaide, who was said to be a little girl who died in a fire at a nearby orphanage. Going to UTA, there is a graveyard on the campus, not far from the theater building, which is also next to Davis Hall, which is where they're saying this mostly takes place. So, one university employee reported many, quote, many occasions where you would be walking through different parts of the building. You would see almost like a flash. And several of our staff said it was always almost like a child running down the hallway. You look and think, who brought their son or daughter here? And you take a second look and nobody would be there. Another quote. The thought is that at least one of the children who died in the fire has migrated to our main stage theater, says Theater Associate Professor Dennis Maher. I know Dennis Maher. I took his history of theater class. I slept through most of it. I don't think he likes me for that reason.
Probably not.
A very intelligent man. His wife is a very lovely woman. I was bored to tears in his class. He just has one of those voices. Anyway,
no.
It was also an 8 a.m. history class.
Oh,
like,
God.
why?
Why'd you do that to yourself?
You had to. It was a requirement.
Oh.
It was part of my degree course. Luckily, Theater History 2 was offered online, thank God. But I did have to sit through Theater History 1, or I should say sleep through Theater History 1 at 8 a.m. every morning. So anyway, Dr. Maher, because he is a doctor, he will tell you that. Dr. Maher said, our spirit is a little girl in an old-fashioned, quote-unquote, grandma dress who hangs around our ghost light. And if you don't know what a ghost light is, go back to that episode. I explain it in detail because I was drunk.
It's the ghost you have to say goodnight to before you leave the theater.
It is a ghost we said goodnight to, yes. The ghost light is
and you leave the light on.
For the ghost. Yeah, you leave the light on for the ghost. Exactly. Look, you remembered. Yay. Maher said she has noticed 2 of our students and even showed up in one of our male students' car. She seems to be attracted to young men.
Woohoo, boys.
There was also a fraternity on campus that said they felt a presence that often played on their stairs, and they believed the spirit was called Mary. Now, if you go to the cemetery that is there where the house used to be, there are 2 headstones which mention the name Mary on them. The cemetery does have a historical marker. It is a historical landmark, and there are 80 graves that sit in the cemetery. 21 are marked, quote, infant, with no names, just infant. And other graves only have first names. Almost all are children or infants, sometime from May of 1903 to January of 1924. And it's said that the home itself admitted between around 1,321 girls and babies.
Wow.
So anyone who's familiar with the UT campus knows exactly what I'm talking about. Davis Hall is like the administration building. At least it was when I was there back in like 2000, blah, 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 blah. There's the administration building, which is like Davis Hall. Next to it, or not far from it, you have sorority row or Greek row, where you have all the sorority and fraternity houses. The theater department is very nearby. The nanotechnology building is nearby. So this is where most of the activity has been reported. And you can drive by Davis Hall and you will see the plot of land that has the historical marker and all the little gravestones right there. It's right on campus.
Wow.
Yes.
No wonder you had a ghost in your theater.
Yes, most theater have ghosts. This one had a very specific ghost, Miss Adelaide. So, all right. So moving on, like I said, I have multiple stories. So I think, two more.
Okay.
We're gonna go away from places I've lived now, and we are going to go to the Huntsville prison,
Oof.
which is, yeah. Tell me, what is worse than being in prison?
Being visited by a ghost in prison.
Exactly, being in a haunted prison. That is exactly the answer I was looking for. So the now vacant brick and concrete cells that were once the quote unquote walls unit of the Huntsville prison is all that is left of the original structure that was Texas's first and oldest prison. It was built in 1848. And as I said, it's informally known as the Walls Unit. And that's named for the building itself has like 20-foot red brick walls. So that's why they call it the Walls Unit.
Mm.
Now, apart from the thousands of inmates and death row convicts that it housed in its very early days, it has been the site for the execution of 285 convicted killers since 1982, which is when Texas resumed carrying out the death penalty. And let's be very honest, all of those people, some of them might not have been actually guilty.
I would venture to think, yeah, a lot of them weren't.
Statistically, a handful at least were not actually guilty of the crimes they were convicted for. But anyway, quote, there was several times I'd wake up at night and feel like something was staring at me, says inmate Charles Carter. Quote, this was for real. I'd see things go past my cell late at night at Carter. And while on cleanup duty on a walkway about 1:30 a.m., once he spotted a prisoner sitting silently on a bunk. When he passed the same cell a short while later, it was vacant. A corrections officer in the mid-80s, 1980s, recounted a night when he was doing a head count. All prisoners are to be visually confirmed as being in their locked cells during these counts. This corrections officer said, quote, I saw an inmate standing on the next row up, just standing there. He didn't say anything. I was wondering what he was doing out of his cell. When I got down to him, I was going to ask what he was doing. When I got to him, he was gone, end quote. When he asked a nearby inmate where the other prisoner that he had seen went, the prisoner replied that there was never an inmate there. Another story of an apparition involves a corrections officer who, while seated at the end of a cell block, swore he saw an inmate walk through the wall that separated the old death row from the general population cells. As the story goes, the correction officer got up and asked an inmate, quote, "Did you see an inmate walk through the wall?" The inmate's reply was, quote, "Yeah, he does that all the time."
What?
So I'll pause right here to say I have taken a lot of these. I keep saying quote unquote because I have pulled a lot of these direct from websites. So I will definitely list all of the sources in our show notes on our blog at boozepod.com, because I kind of did all this research last minute. So I had no choice but to pull from a bunch of websites. Shout out to people who have the time and the drive to do actual research and writing, because it is not me. Listen, I'm in the middle of a move. My life is not my own right now. So everything is horrible. So yeah, that is the Huntsville prison.
How are you gonna? What do you mean he does this every night? Somebody walks through your wall every night?
I mean, think about it. You're in prison after like the first 2 months. I feel like you're just like, I
Now,
guess this is what happens.
are you seeing things, or is this actually happening? Now I saw it, so like, what's going on?
Well, who are you going to complain to? Like, what are you going to say to the corrections officer or the warden? Like, there's a ghost in my cell.
Man, yeah, I guess you don't want to like have to get
I
sent to
feel
a
like
psych ward or something, but
you won't even get that. You'll be straight up ignored and told to like stop
yeah,
creating issues.
probably.
My final Texas tale.
I like how you said that.
There is a Texas tale. Can I get should I do all this in my best Southern accent?
I think you should start talking like that when you move to Atlanta.
Should I talk like this all the time? I feel like this isn't necessarily Georgian.
You sound like the lady from Steel Magnolias.
Which one? It's like 8. That's all women there.
What's her name? Daryl Hannah. You sound like her.
Oh God. Okay. I can't remember her character's name. But
I promise my personal tragedy will not interfere with my ability to do good hair.
I love the fact that you know that. I feel like I learn something new about you every freaking time we record. And now I know that you know Steel Magnolia's quotes by heart.
I do.
That is amazing. Okay. I'm going to tuck that away in my pocket. Hopefully I'll remember this in the morning, and in the future enough to bring it up at every opportunity. So our next story is The Grove at Jefferson, Texas. The Grove, also known as Still a Young House, located in Jefferson, Texas. Am I even doing the right accent? I don't know.
I don't think you are.
Probably not. I'm an actress.
She is. She's very good.
Okay. Thank you. I can't do an accent, though, to save my life, apparently. The house has also been called, and I still continue. I'm going to stop now. Sorry. The house has also been called the most haunted place in Texas. So I'm going to say up front, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't spend a lot of time researching. So a lot of this just came straight from Wikipedia and another website. I will cite all my sources in our show notes on our blog at boozepod.com. So the Grove's history dates back to the 19th century. The land was originally given to Daniel and Lucy Alley, co-founders of Jefferson, in a land grant. Now, if you don't know what a land grant is, let me tell you. It is when the government used to give stolen indigenous land away for free to white people. And now you may be thinking, Camille, that seems a little harsh. But let me tell you, it is the truth. Land grants were given predominantly to white people so that they could go to remote rural parts of the country and start homesteads, start farms.
Why for free, though?
because they wanted to produce some sort of it was all part of capitalism. They were hoping that these people would go there, establish a farm or some sort of business, and that a town would appear.
I
So
mean,
you're
like,
it's like government, it's like slightly government-owned land, but they're giving it to you, quote, unquote, "giving it to you," in hopes that you can produce something that is valuable to the people in the surrounding area and or to the government. And what they did was they provided this predominantly to white people, especially at this time in the early 19th century. Um, and you know, this was land that they had acquired, quote unquote, a lot of times just robbed and ill-gotten from indigenous cultures, and they just gave it away. And if you happened to say be of any other race, let's say black, maybe you were a recently emancipated, recently freed slave,
hmm.
you necessarily wouldn't qualify, let's say, for these land grants for whatever reason, big question mark, right? If you were maybe Chinese, because there was a lot of anti-Chinese, a lot of anti-Asian rhetoric around this time as well.
Hmm.
If you weren't straight and white and able to farm, you weren't getting free land. And fun fact, you can hear Martin Luther King Jr. talking about this if you search for it on YouTube. If you look at some of those videos of his less popularized speeches, you will hear him talk about how America owes Black people their full check because they were giving out land free to white people all the time. And that was pretty much right before they assassinated him. But that's a different podcast. Okay. Just gonna move that there. Look it up. Look it
She
up.
came through with facts,
Hard
receipts.
facts. I will fucking link that video in the notes too if I have to. Okay. You want to come at me with some stuff? Let's go. Let's get into it because I've looked at it. If all you can quote about Martin Luther King is I have a dream, we're going to have a discussion. Come at me if you want to. That's all I'm going to say.
I suggest you don't.
I suggest you don't either. Right now, I don't have time. I'm in the middle of a fucking move to another state, but I will get to you. And when I do, you will regret it. So, moving on. Anyway, so these people were given a land grant to move into this land. Now, on November 13th, 1861, Frank Stilley and Minerva Fox purchased the land and built a house there, calling it the Grove. And according to the Handbook of Texas, which I assume is a publication of some sort, during Reconstruction, which is a whole other history lesson, a violent event known as the Stockade Case occurred in this area. Now, the Stockade Case began with when a northern carpetbagger named George W. Smith arrived in Jefferson with 4 freed slaves and quickly made enemies by saying that ex-slaves wouldn't be free until Jefferson burnt. I don't know if any of this is true. Again, this is like what this publication said via Wikipedia. But you have this man from the north, a carpetbagger, coming to this Texas town, which we all know Texas didn't free their slaves until like 2 years after emancipation.
Way late.
Way, way late, right? That's why Juneteenth is a thing. You learned about Juneteenth this year because everyone did.
You sure did. Congratulations.
Everyone, congratulations. You now know what Juneteenth is. And according to my own family history, that's the only reason we were freed. So, when we arrived in Galveston. So,
Wow.
now this man, very bold, George W. Smith, which is actually my family's name, Smith. Interesting. After he said that Jefferson should burn down, basically, all the citizens of Jefferson got really, really mad because they're Southern Texans, right?
Hmm.
So, to help protect Smith, the Union Army put him and his acquaintances in a jail. However, that night, a let's call them a lynch mob. This article calls them a mob, but let's call them what they are. They're a lynch mob full of angry locals. We're going to assume they're all white, gathered around the jail where they disarmed, quote, disarmed the Union troops, entered the jail, took the carpetbagger George W. Smith out, and shot him. The brutal act was then completed when they took the 4 Black men and either shot or hanged them along Mosley Street. So, end quote. The military records show that Grove as being one of the sites where this incident occurred. So, allegedly, the place where this house is that I'm talking about is one of the locations where someone was either shot or hung. The first sign of something strange, paranormal, let's say, happening at the Grove was in 1882 when the house was sold to Mr. T.C. Burks. However, the property was returned within 6 months. There is no explanation why the Burks reneged on their deal. However, he reportedly said, "We cannot live in that house." Very Amityville vibes there.
Mm-hmm.
On March 6, 1885, Charles and Daphne Young purchased the Grove. Uniquely enough, they were an African American couple that had been born into slavery as children. In 1908, the Young family unfortunately experienced a tragedy when their son James committed suicide at the house by hanging himself on the back porch. Louise Young, their daughter, took over ownership of the Grove when her father died, and there she lived and cared for her mother, Daphne. Daphne was said to have spent most of her time at the Grove, where she took care of the gardens that she so loved. After she died, her funeral was actually held at the Grove on the front porch, reportedly because she could be near the garden that she loved so much one last time. Quote, according to those who knew Louise, the daughter, she was constantly frightened of something, since she had every interior door and window fitted with strong locks and installed strong lights to keep the yard well lit. Also, according to a Texas guidebook about haunted places in Texas, Louise was always worried about someone getting inside the house. She reportedly called the police on a regular basis, complaining about prowlers. In 1983, Louise died at the age of 96, having lived almost her entire life at the Grove. Now, the Grove has been in multiple hands, multiple owners since that time, and it has quite a history of some unexplained happenings. Some of those include random voices, sounds of footsteps, moving objects, and some of your run of the mill ghostly occurrences and phenomenons. According to a previous owner who turned the Grove into a restaurant at one point, many mysterious events occurred while he was at the house. These events included mirrors falling off walls, loud wails heard coming from upstairs, unexplained moisture in spots around the house, and the constant feeling of being watched. Quote, legend has it that the property lies in an area where several murders occurred and several unmarked graves reportedly lie under or near the house. I will say that Charles Young, the son of the African American owners of this house, he is not buried in the family plot. No one seems to know exactly where he was buried after he killed himself. So possibly he was buried on site. We don't know. Now, some of the other reported occurrences at the house is that a woman and her friends recall seeing a Black man lying in the street near the house. And as they went to see if he needed help, the man supposedly disappeared. A ghostly woman has also been reported many times being around the grove. The woman has also been reported by a neighbor and her sister who saw, quote, a glowing white figure on the porch. This woman is sometimes said to be either Minerva Fox, one of the early owners of the house, or perhaps Daphne Young, who loved the house, loved the garden there.
Mm.
And it's said that whoever this figure is, she emerges from a wall and then walks across the width of the house. The width of the house. The path, since the way the house stands now, they've done some renovations to it. So there are walls where there weren't walls before originally.
Hmm.
So when you see these apparitions walking through a wall, what they may be remembering is this isn't a wall. This is part of my porch.
Right.
This is part of an open space in my backyard on my back porch.
Wow.
And so they're walking from outside to inside, whereas if we're looking at it, they're walking through a wall
Yeah.
into another room.
Huh.
There's another owner who reportedly brought a Bible to bed with them with the intention of praying for her and her husband, but she fell asleep. When she awakened to a black swirling mass engulfing the bedroom. Within this mass, there were unexplained voices, disembodied footsteps, sounds of objects being moved, and unseen hands, as well as actual apparitions. There's reports of sudden odors appearing in rooms, the scent of women's perfume, the smell of strong body odor, as if someone hasn't bathed in a long, long time. As the restaurateur mentioned before, there have been heavy mirrors that have fallen off the walls without any explanation. However, when they landed, they didn't break and they broke nothing else that was in their path.
Wow.
Also, during the restaurant years, a waitress walked out of the kitchen into the hallway and was attacked by a black and white dog that knocked her to the ground. When she was able to get up and run back to the kitchen to scream for help, the owner searched the building and the yard, but there was no dog to be found, as if it had simply vanished. The place is currently a historical landmark and they do tours. And now during a candlelight tour, a couple took a photo, and in the background was a lady in a high-collared, puff-sleeved white dress surrounded by a ring of smoke. At one point, there seems to be a dinner theater that took place there. And during a rehearsal, a light technician was on the front porch looking through the window. Suddenly, she felt someone staring at her. When she glanced around, she saw standing on the east side of the house a lady in white who began walking behind the east side of the house. She chased after the woman, and the woman simply vanished, or appeared to have vanished. Ironically, at one time, there was a door on that side leading to a bedroom. So like I mentioned before, where construction of new buildings or rooms weren't there previously are now there. So on the same night of that rehearsal, an actress, she went down a set of stairs, and when she glanced to her right, she saw a person in a costume, but she didn't recognize them. When she began to ask the person some questions, the woman disappeared in front of her eyes. There have also been reports of wet footprints in the middle of a hallway, even though there are no rainy conditions or wet conditions anywhere on the property. Drops of water have been found on the staircase, and one particular mirror in the house also had drops of water on it when everything else was dry. Like there was no moisture in the air. A neighbor once told a former owner, quote, "Let me tell you what my sister and I have seen recently. My sister was standing on our porch one night around 9 o'clock when she called me out to see a glowing white figure across the street. She looked like she was inspecting the renovation of an old building. The figure came from the east side of the grove, which, unquote, end quote. Which the east side keeps coming up in this story. So clearly someone's walking a familiar path,
Right.
or a path that was familiar to them. There was once a renter who lived in the garden at one time, or there was a garden cottage that he lived in. And when he looked out his windows, he saw a little girl playing outside. And of course, when he went outside, she looked at him and disappeared. There has been a shadow figure seen in the garden many times, either walking through it or just simply hanging around. And finally, lights tend to go on and off in the house, and the chandeliers have been reported to sway even when there's no airflow in the room. And that is the Grove House in Jefferson, Texas. And that is the end of my Texas tales of horror and hauntings.
I love this accent.
This very random, non-specific Southern accent.
It's fantastic.
So yay.
Those are some scary. I had no idea Texas had such a rich haunted history.
Yeah. Texas has, I mean, it's Texas. Texas is what, the size of most states times 2.
We should simply eat all the other states.
We consume states at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
I think Texas is the only one we can't compete with.
Well, we can't.
Or California.
Yeah.
Did I say Texas? California is the only one we can't compete with state-wise.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's tons of, some of the websites I went to, they mentioned the ghost of White Rock Lake, which we've covered before.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's another local. There's also apparently a goat man in Rockwall. It seemed a little too weird for me. I was like, maybe next time.
It's just the goat man. Here he comes.
Just the goat man. Every town has one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I thought it was interesting. There's a whole, I mean, there's stories about the Alamo, the Menger Hotel. I mean, then that's just San Antonio, has like half a dozen to start.
San Antonio just seems like it's haunted.
I mean, a lot of history. Like I said, the Battle of the Alamo didn't actually happen in San Antonio, but it happened close enough to San Antonio.
They've been lying to me about everything and just forced me to know all this Texas history, and then now you're telling me it's all a lie. And this battle did not take place right next to the mall.
It didn't. It did not take place next to River Center Mall or the River Walk. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Questions or additional commentary?
I guess all I'll say is I really do feel like, should we be in these cities, we're visiting your hometown, we're in Arlington for whatever reason, I for sure we should check out the railroad track in San Antonio.
Oh yeah,
that seems cool.
We can definitely schedule some time to do that.
Yeah. Our Texas listeners, like, you got fair game to go check these places out and report back to us. We would love to hear, like, if you're in San Antonio, like, go to the railroad track and see if it rolls down and put some, see if you see some handprints or something. So
absolutely. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Boozed Podcast. Again, you can find us at boozedpod.com, our new website, recently updated website. So go there to find all your links. You can find a link to our merchandise for your holiday gift giving. Order now so you can have it in time to put it under the tree. We have our Brown Liquor Lady mugs, Boozed logo t-shirts, hoodies, mugs. It's amazing. If you would like to support this show in another way, you can always share the episodes, like, subscribe. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That is super important to our show getting some visibility. So if you can take a few minutes out of your day to do that, we would really, really appreciate it. You can also support us monetarily through patreon.com. Patreon also now offers yearly subscription options. So you don't have to worry about your credit card declining in the middle of the year and suddenly you're no longer giving. You can sign up for a year. And when you sign up for a year, you actually get a month for free. It's like a super awesome deal. Additionally, they now have conversions. So if you are outside of the United States, you can now use your location's currency to make a donation without all of those horrible exchange rates and blah, 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 blah. All those things that make donating to the US very, very difficult. I apologize. But now, Patreon, you don't have to worry about it. If you would like to make a different type of donation or contribution, feel free to email us at boostpod. Nope, that's not right. boostpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all social media at boostpod. And as I mentioned earlier, we are now also on Pinterest. So as you're DIYing, vision boarding, recipe hoarding.
We'll have some recipes.
No, we won't.
Some spooky recipes.
Spooky recipes. Yeah, we're again, it's new, so bear with us, but give us a follow. You'll see a lot of posts about our episodes. You'll see posts about other resources and links. And maybe you'll see some posts about Sydney and I's favorite things, favorite books, favorite TV shows, favorite movies. All possible. So give us a follow there as well if you are on Pinterest. Thank you, as always, for listening. Sydney, got anything else to add?
Well, guys, here we are in December. We made it to somewhat of the end.
Yay!
So,
Ish.
yay-ish.
Yay-ish.
Stay safe and happy holidays. And get boozed.
Get boozed, always. Yes. Once more, thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Wear a goddamn mask.
Please.
And don't forget, get boozed. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Boozed. Our theme was composed by Vincent Parish. Sound production is done by Sydney Johnson. You can find us on social media at BoozedPod. That's BOOSED pod. If you would like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/boozedpod to make a contribution. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, get boozed.